Welcome back to Afternoon Live. You know our next guest from his classic character Otter in the 70s blockbuster comedy Animal House, among so many other things. His new memoir takes us on a journey through Hollywood, starting out as a teen actor all the way up to today. We welcome the author of Damn Glad to Meet You, My 7 Decades in the Hollywood Trenches, actor and director Tim Matheson. Thank you so much for joining us, Tim.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. It's great to be here, and it's good to see you.
What's it like to write and release a book about your life? I imagine it's a little bit of a different experience versus acting or directing maybe a work of fiction.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's it's sort of a combination between confession and therapy, and but it was invigorating, and it was just reminded me of so many of the lessons and mistakes that I made in my career, and the lessons that I learned in my career from people like Lucille Ball and Jackie Gleason and Clint Eastwood and Kurt Russell and John Belushi, certainly. So I just wanted to make that, available to the younger generation, and also people of my age that remember when Animal House, when it first came out.
It's an incredible list of people, just a few that you mentioned, of people that you've co-starred with, worked with along the way. Did it surprise you, even looking back and going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I was sharing scenes with Lucille Ball? That's incredible.
Yes. I mean, you don't, at the moment, you sort of are just present and try not to let the fact that it was Lucille Ball and all that she had done distract me from, playing the scene at hand. But she took me under her wing, and she was very, very gracious and kind and informative to me, and taught me a lot about show business and her career. I mean, she started in vaudeville. They would do like 3 to 5 to 7 shows a day, and she basically wanted to toughen me up a little bit. I think I was very sensitive and shy, and she was always saying, "Speak up. If you want to be a star, you got to act like a star." Meaning, you have to bring it to the set. You can't hope to get lucky, and you have to really make choices and about what you're going to do, and especially in physical comedy, which she's a master of.
I mean, the true professional above all. Tell me about your family's reaction to the book. Were your kids, did they even know about all the people that you've worked with over the years? I imagine there might be some new stories to them that they hadn't heard before.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Hannah. I mean, because I kind of kept my kids away from my career in many ways. I don't think they'd seen The West Wing. I know that my daughter had not seen.
Wow.
They didn't see The West Wing when I was doing it, and my daughter had not seen Animal House. My oldest daughter Molly, until she got to college, and she called me from a party, and she said, "Dad, I'm at a Tulsa party. Can you say hi to my friend?" So I passed the torch to her.
What an incredible experience. Well, I gotta say, as a University of Oregon graduate, Animal House means a lot to me. I was cackling at your story of an ill-fated night at the SAE house, which I could just completely recognize on campus right away. I love that you spent several pages of the book talking about that experience, because what an incredible time in your life, and the cast and crew.
Oh yes, well, the SAE guys kicked our ass. We didn't know. I didn't know. We didn't know that only members are allowed, and so we'd been in another fraternity house where we were shooting, and they liked us, so they said, "Come to our party," and then these young ladies invited us to go to another party, and we went there, and we were not gladly accepted, and they sort of chased us away. But it was a great experience the whole time we were there. And the University of Oregon has got a very special place in my heart, and I'm glad to be going back to Eugene and coming to Portland and sharing stories from the book and just from backstage when we were shooting.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the book the #1 question that you always get asked is, what was it like working with Belushi? I mean, even up to people that you work with in present day, it always comes back to that, and you have some really fond memories of him.
Yeah, John was one of the sweetest, most vulnerable, wonderful people I'd ever worked with. We didn't know what to expect of him. He was in the #1 craziest new hit show on TV in the second year of Saturday Night Live. He and Chevy were like the biggest stars to come off that show. And when he first showed up with Judy Belushi, his wife, for the dinner to welcome them in. I guess it was the Saturday before the Saturday a week before we were going to start shooting. We thought, oh, he's going to be kind of stuck up, maybe, a big star and kind of, standoffish. No, he was the most generous, open, receptive, and he was such a friend to me because I'd never done a comedy before. And it was my first comedy. So I was petrified. And he was very gracious and helpful and supportive of anything I tried. If I tried something in a scene, and I'd look at John afterwards, and he'd just go, yeah, that was good, or he'd bounce off of it. I mean, so he was like a great improv actor. You accept everything that's going on around you and you build upon it.
You have so many incredible stories throughout the book, throughout the years of co-stars, and it seems like you took something away from everyone that you worked with, even if it wasn't a great experience, right? You were always learning, and you're still at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully I'm not making as many mistakes as I did when I was younger. I stepped in it a few times and learned from my mistakes. And those are the things I've sort of itemized and passed on. We've got, I've got a section in there called Film School Boot Camp, which as an actor and director, lessons that I learned that can help you as in a younger performer or director's career not to make the same mistakes that I made, So there's a whole subsection of that, which I greatly enjoyed recounting all the goofs that I made, but that's part of the journey, I think we learn from our mistakes, and hopefully you don't make them twice.
Of course. Well, and going back to the very beginning, you were so young when you walked into this acting career, and you really wanted to help your family, and you saw that you could earn a paycheck. I mean, I think a lot of young people can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, we were, my parents had broken up, and my mother was supporting two kids pretty much on her own, and it was hard for her. And so any little thing I could, I found at 12 years old, I could make $100 a day as a one-day actor. And it was like, wow. I mean, and then it's probably, I don't know, 10 times that now. So it would have been like $1,000, I mean, so that was a lot of money. And then I started working more regularly. And then back in that day, you could do television commercials. And if you got a commercial, it would pay you a couple of $1,000s a year. And you could live on that. So that helped our family. And, I was glad to be able to do that for my mom, who did so much for me.
When getting into the voice work so early on, too, I mean, you stepped into this Johnny Quest world and really got to see other iconic voice actors really do their craft.
Well, yeah, some of the finest actors I've ever worked with were the people that did the voices on those shows. And many of them came out of vaudeville, Mel Blanc, and they all had basically gotten their start in films and also in radio. And so with Johnny Quest, Joe Barbera hired me just to be the sort of the real kid behind Johnny. And there'd be 8 of us we did the show like live in front of 8 microphones facing the control room, and we would do it all together. And it was like doing a one-act play, and we did it pretty much in 30 minutes. Then we go back and pick up a few lines here and there, but it was great to bounce off those other actors and to see these people who had such a fine craft. I mean, Mel Blanc and Don Messick could create a dog character with a certain personality and a certain sound, and without blinking their eye, and Mel Blanc could play 2 characters in the same scene talking to each other. And I didn't know how they kept that memory of the voice and the characterization in their head, because I had hard enough time just being one character. So
right. I mean, that's fascinating. And then to watch it firsthand and be able to see how quickly they could do that. What about something like that versus the experience of today doing like a streaming series like Virgin River? It must be so different the way that filmmaking and television just is now.
It's totally different because before everything was broadcast, and you did 20, gosh, when I first started it was like 36 episodes a year, then it got to, 33, 29, 26, 22. And the last series I did was 22 episodes for Heart of Dixie. We did it for the CW. And now with Virgin River on Netflix, we do 10 to 12 episodes a year. And so you have, but the good news, bad news is you have time off after the show's over, if you finish shooting, to do other things. And so you can do theater, you can do other, acting projects that you want to, or just spend time at home. And I've got grandkids, and so it's a blessing. But yes, you're right, it has changed a great deal.
For sure. Well, and speaking of, Virgin River season 6 just came out. I mean, that's hugely successful for a streaming show. And then is 7 on the way already?
7 will be starting in March. We start shooting our 7th season, which is, and we love the show. And it's one of those very special shows that we love the actors in it, and the crew all, save that spot in the season so that they can come in and work on it. And it's a great family that we have created there. And it shoots up in Vancouver, British Columbia. So we'll be going back up there in March and enjoying that again, and seeing where this season 7 takes. And you don't know going in exactly where your characters are going to go. So you pick up a script every week and go, oh my gosh, that's going to happen. Oh my God.
Oh, that must be so much fun. Hey, we want to let everyone know that Tim has a book event tomorrow night at the Alberta Rose Theater. The book, again, is Damn Glad to Meet You by Tim Matheson. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. Tim, thank you so much. Congratulations on the book, and thanks for spending some time with us today.
Great talking with you, Hannah. Thanks so much.
All right, we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.